What is going on? Bar Down Breakdown, episode 170. We are joined today by our new homies, Justin and Tom from Convicted Printing down in Tampa Bay, Florida. Super stoked to chat with you guys. And as you can see, Tom is still not here. He's recovering from surgery. Sending him well wishes, but surgery went well, and he's hanging in there. So he'll be back soon. But for now, the show must go on. So, boys, what's going on? I'm sure it's hot and humid as hell down in Tampa right now.
Yeah, that never changes. It's hot and humid. Yep.
Yeah, my wife was just there last weekend for a bachelorette party, Anna Marie Island, which is I guess off the coast of Tampa.
Yeah, it's like an hour away.
Yeah, it's
close. She said it was beautiful, and
it's really that beach.
Yeah, it is really pretty.
Yeah, I don't deny that, but I guess let's just jump right into it because the Battle of Florida didn't go as everyone was expecting. We thought it was going to be a little bit more of a battle, and your boys handled the Florida Panthers. So I guess are we? I guess let's start with that. Are we both Bolts fans?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been a Bolts fan since before they won their first Stanley Cup back probably 5 or 6 years before that.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I've always appreciated hockey. And the year before the pandemic, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down, watch literally every single game or as many games as I can and just try to learn the sport. And so that's where, and I was like, well, I'm going to watch my hometown team. Might as well just do that. So my dad was always a Lightning fan. He was more of a Bucks fan, but he's like the Lightning too. So.
Yeah, right. Actually, before the pandemic, Tom and I went to an Islanders Bolts game in Tampa.
Nice.
And just the whole atmosphere of all the bars that are around the arena and it just being so nice. And this was February, so it literally was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And even February in North Carolina can be a little cold and gray, but going to Tampa in February does something for your soul, being able to wear shorts and watch hockey.
Dude, yeah, it's a weird thing. I grew up. I played hockey all through high school, and I was in Florida. I moved to Pennsylvania and played for a prep school for a year. But most of my experience with hockey has been being in the rink, obviously sweating my ass off whenever when I'm playing, but then, come out and it's cold in the rink, and then you go outside and it's hot and humid, and it's just this is not great. Interesting.
See, yeah, that's got to be interesting. Usually over the summer when I was up in New York, the leagues and stuff started to slow down. They had summer leagues, but some people just took those off because they weren't as competitive. Yeah. And I guess I never really experienced going into the rink and then coming out when it was 95 degrees. That's gonna be a weird feeling.
Yeah, it's one of those things that for me it's that's been my whole life with hockey. So, but I'm this is probably weird for most people.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it was weird, but now as hockey has spread to non-traditional hockey markets, it's the norm now. There's a whole group of kids that are only used to that are now playing in the NHL. It's cool to see, and I on the outside looking in, I was really hoping that Florida series would have been a little bit more competitive and went to 6 or 7 games because, I think it does wonders for the sport of hockey when that happens. But who knows, if Carolina takes care of the Rangers this weekend, then that those are 2 non-traditional markets where we'll have Tampa and Carolina in the Eastern Conference Final, which
they always end up playing each other in the playoffs every year, and it's always 6, 7, or 5, 6, 7 games every time. So it's gonna be a good match for sure.
Yeah, and If the Rangers make it, it'll just be the Rangers versus the Rangers. So
seriously, and it's going to be a physical game if the Rangers make it through. That'll be fun.
Yeah, either way. And then out in the West, like, can you have dreamt a better scenario of having the Oilers in Colorado? Like,
oh, do you mean the what's his name?
David?
The Edmonton McDavids?
Yeah, the David show.
No, I'm kidding. They're killing it right now.
They're killing it, but Evander Kane's been having a killer playoff too. So like, there's other superstars that are.
He's on fire.
He has been on fire. So I think that it's going to be an interesting, conference finals, and I'm all for it, especially since I kind of, once my team gets eliminated, I kind of just go based on what's like the storyline, like what would be like kind of newsworthy for people that are not hockey fans that would then be like, oh, this is cool, like let me watch a game. And I think a lot of people are going to be interested in the Colorado Edmonton series just because you have such young superstars that are now at that level. And Edmonton's finally made it past the first round, and I think it's going to be pretty sweet to see.
Yeah, it'll be fun for sure.
I
don't know who's winning that one. I think the Avs, but I'm not sure.
And I'm going to say right now, and I have no bad blood with the Tampa Bay Lightning, even though you guys eliminated us, the past 2 years. Like, I just don't want you guys to be like one step closer to like what the Islanders did in the 80s and having 4 straight cups.
Yeah.
So like, you guys had your 2 straight. You had your fun. Let's leave it at that. And let's let what the Islanders did in that dynasty kind of live on a little bit longer.
Honestly, though, it's Cooper, dude. Him as a coach, insane.
Dude, for real.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys know his like rise to the head coach position.
Not all of it, but I know I was actually just hearing that he was like
was he like a lawyer?
Yeah, he was a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then coached high school, like, because he was like, oh, in college, like, oh, this is interesting. And then went from there, and it's like, wow, so no background in hockey.
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
No, like he was a lacrosse player. He played at Hofstra, which is like it is a D1 school, but a small D1 school on Long Island.
Right.
Okay.
So like he has more of a lacrosse upbringing. And then like you said, he was a lawyer that kind of took on like junior like high school and stuff like that, and rose to just where he's at now. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I think one of the cool things, going back to when you were talking about just like all the bars around the area and everything around the stadium, it's funny because you're talking about how like Tampa is not like a traditional hockey market. Like you would be like, oh, the Bucks, they make sense, but like the Lightning being so good, it's crazy because you go around downtown Tampa area, and even when like the Bucks were in the Super Bowl, like obviously there was like stuff around.
That was like a side note.
There was like stuff around, obviously, but when the Bolts are in the playoffs, it is nothing but lightning everywhere in Tampa. It's honestly insane to see such a hot, like humid city be so into hockey. It's insane to see.
It really comes down to the location, because the arena's location is prime. It is an absolute like awesome, like the trolley line right can take you right to like Ybor City, right to the arena, like dumps you off right there. Like you can't get better than that.
Right.
And I stayed at like the northern part of Tampa and was able to ride the trolley down just like a few stops. So like didn't have to Uber, didn't have to do any of that. Like all those convenient factors make it work. And then all the bars and restaurants are just going to get business from that as well.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the Florida Panthers, where their arena makes no sense. And that's why they struggle pretty much every year with attendance, because even people that live in like the Fort Lauderdale area, it's just not convenient for them to get to Sunrise.
That's something you just roll out.
Yeah, it's tough, where it just makes sense. And then you look at where the Tampa Bay Rays play. Like that doesn't make sense. And that's
No,
why
insane heat, yeah.
Yeah, it's way out there.
yeah, and that's why that team doesn't do well. So I think that the Lightning have kind of just been set up for success, and the same goes for like the Nashville Predators. Their arena is right on Broadway, like the most tourist center for Nashville.
We parked right by it when we were on tour that one time.
Yeah.
Like right there. I remember seeing it. I was like, holy crap, it's just there.
Just there. It's you can't get better than that. And I think that's why Nashville has taken off. And even when they have down years, their attendance is still, right in the middle of the pack or higher because you got people in town are just like, you know what? Let me catch this game. Like, the Preds are playing. Let me go. Like it becomes
something
to
to do. It's there, even if you're not into hockey. It's like it's something to do.
Yeah, because even the nosebleeds at Emily are like what, $40-$50 a ticket, which is like, if you're just going out on a weekend or something, you're like, it's a Saturday, I'm gonna go watch a Saturday game, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can see from anywhere in that arena.
Yeah.
So it's like $40-$50 you go. It's fun.
Yeah, the time that I was there, I was actually in the last row, the absolute last row, and it's different than when you sit in the last row for a football game or something like that, where you really are far away.
Mm-hmm.
But for hockey arenas, there's 18 to 20,000 at most in those arenas. So if you're even in the last row, you're not that far,
right?
So unless you're in maybe Montreal or one of those A markets where maybe the last row is pretty far, but it wasn't bad at Tampa, not gonna lie.
So I remember going to games. Speaking of $40 to $50, I remember when I was really diehard Lightning fan. I remember tickets were like $7 in the nosebleeds. Was
that at Emily when it was the Ice Palace or whatever?
Ice Palace, yeah. Jeez. Didn't even have corporate sponsorship.
Crazy. So that's going back to when they first got the team. Do you, I guess out of curiosity, because I'm 35 years old, I remember when the Tampa Bay Lightning became a team.
Yeah, they started at the fairgrounds in the expo hall.
Yeah. They that was, I think, early 91, 92, something like that. I was in St. Louis at the time. But then moved down here mid 90s, and that the Lightning became my team. And back when Darren Pupa was their goalie, that's when I first got into them. And it was probably maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, something like that, after they started. That's how long I've kind of been following.
Was Esposito still part of the team then?
I think so. Yeah, he was involved.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I guess let's just kind of hear some of those early memories that you have, because that's always interesting for me. So, when you were in elementary school, middle school, going to games for probably the first time, what's your moment as a Bolts fan?
I don't know. The Bolts were kind of small at the time, obviously, and so I've always kind of been an underdog kind of type, and I've always rooting for the underdog, all that kind of stuff. So I was always the Bolts were definitely the underdog for a long time, and so for me it was I'm supporting my hometown team. And as they're improving and all that kind of stuff. But one of the cool things is the year that before they won the Stanley Cup, they have this area around the back where all the players come out, and it's real easy to just walk over there and just get autographs. So for that whole year, we went because they're $7. It was actually one of the cheapest things to do for me and my family. So that was we did that probably 2 or 3 times a month. And so we went and I had a Lightning jersey, and I got pretty much all of the players the year before they won the Stanley Cup got them signed in this jersey. So that was probably one of my favorite experiences collectively.
And what about you, Justin?
My earliest memory, I was in elementary school. Like I was super young, and we won the first cup. And my dad pulled me out of school because they were going to do the parade. Now we have a boat parade, and they go.
Oh yeah, I want to hear
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
insane.
Oh wow.
It's insane. But back then they just took it like through downtown Tampa, Kennedy, like near the arena and everything, and everybody like they shut down downtown, and like so my dad pulled me out of school and we went to it, and I remember seeing all the players go by and everything like that, and I was like, this is super cool. And then they were throwing out like not like chucking obviously, but they were throwing out pucks and stuff with like the Stanley Cup year on it, and I caught one.
Nice.
Like so that was like my earliest memory is like going to that with my
Nice.
dad. My dad pulled me out. He did the same thing when the Bucks won their first Super Bowl, and so that was probably my first memory of it. And like I said, I watched them.
Oh, is that the one there?
No, that's
a more recent one.
Yeah, that's Yanni Ford said that puck. But no, my dad has it. So my dad has that, and he has like the OG Lightning hat and everything.
Yeah, I have an OG Lightning hat jersey. All like my dad's keeping holding on to it.
Of course he is.
Yeah. And I have like all the year pins, like the 10-year pin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As you know, as they were growing, and really like they had one of the things they did actually, they had a guy, I forget his name now. He was basically their fan development guy. What's his name? Oh, I feel like such a jerk for forgetting his name. But he actually went around. They did like little clinics and like street ball matches and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so before I ever got into, I first started in roller hockey and then got into I played street hockey forever, basically my whole life, and then got into roller hockey, then into ice hockey. But before that, we would go to like pretty much all the clinics that they would put on. So it was really cool how the Lightning did it, like progressively over time, getting people like just interested in the sport in general as an activity. And they really sponsored a lot of stuff around the community and like the high school hockey leagues and all that kind of stuff, and really got the community involved and like interested in the sport in general.
And then when they do their training camps, they have it at they're like the postseason training camps and stuff. They do it at a local ice rink here that's like probably 15 minutes away from where we are right now. And that's where they do like beer league hockey, ice, like young kids learning how to ice skate and stuff like that. And then there's 2 rinks, and on one rink, that's where they all practice. So if you just go up there, and it's free to go in there and walk around, you can just see them, and they'll let you just watch them like up above them and stuff like that. It's crazy.
It's just so smart, and it's like those little things that make people fans. And you know, the Tampa Bay Lightning aren't going anywhere now. Like they have,
they're
have legit fans who are going to be diehard fans for the rest of their lives, and it takes that groundwork, and I'm starting to see like the Islanders doing that now that they have their new arena that they have to fill.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing that like necessary work that teams kind of don't want to do necessarily, but it's so necessary. And it really has built a core fan base. And I saw it when I was there. Like these people are legit hockey fans in Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome. Even though in the early 2000s, like those games when what you guys were talking about, like your first cup run, you guys took out the New York Islanders, and I thought that was like the year that they could have went far, and we just had an unlucky matchup, and you guys I think beat us in 6, or maybe it was even 5. Like it wasn't too competitive, but that those Lightning teams are just unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Well, the reason we freaking like crushed the Panthers this year is because we were just getting pucks hit at us, and every defenseman was just laying their bodies on the line to block every shot that came at Massey. It was insane. And we just broke down their offense, and then they took too many risks, and then lo and behold, we're down 3-on-1, and then we score. Like that's like the story of almost all of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Like the Panthers, I think, had the most goals during the regular season since like the Stanley Cup era. Like the most regular season goals.
3 goals on us that entire 4 games. Like
Yeah.
we only had 1 goal.
Nuts.
Like every game that they played,
Yeah.
except for the one time Vassy shut him out, and then he has 6 freaking clinching shutouts now.
Yeah, that's what my dad was telling me. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's going to be a interesting rest of the way for sure. I think hockey fans are in for a treat.
Yeah.
With the talent that's still left, and I think that out of like the Rangers Carolina series, that's probably going to be the team that's the least talked about, but could be sneaky. And like the Hurricanes, especially if the Hurricanes advance, a lot of casual hockey fans probably can't even name 2 players on that team, but they are dangerous and fast, and so I feel like their game is very similar to Tampa's game, where that would be just either like an offensive showdown, like it would just be like 7-6 every game, or they just try to like play shutdown, and then it's like a really low scoring series. I think they're just so similar, those 2 teams.
We'll see. I mean, it starts Wednesday, so we'll see.
Hell yeah. So let's talk about those boat parades that have been going on the past 2 years. Like I thought it was hysterical when all the dudes like Stamkos and them were just like riding up on their jet skis, and it kind of like reminded me of the Mighty Ducks. Like Mighty Ducks do
That's exactly what it is.
No, dude, Maroon is a legend in Tampa now because of just him being. All of them were like sort of dressed up nice or whatever when they like after the boat parade. They like had polos and shorts on or whatever. And then Maroon comes up there with this straw hat, no shirt, drunk out of his mind.
Yeah, it's like back to like old school hockey with these guys. It's like because hockey's always kind of been like more of like a live life, like, and not like recklessly or like in any kind of like more like destructive way, but like we're just gonna have fun, and it's a good time. And hockey's kind of always had that culture where it's like just a fun, good, like respectful time. But like I feel like there has been like within the past decade or so, there has been a more like suit and tie kind of approach, and the Lightning's kind of like, nah, we're not doing the Richmond party.
I mean, they freaking did #1 BS on their rings because of what Kucherov said when he was holding a Bud Light during the post game interview about Vassy. It was hilarious.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and like at one point, I'm sure the keeper of the cup was scared that the cup was just going to be sitting at the bottom of the bay. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that Killorn took the cup to Montreal right outside the stadium was classic. That was hilarious.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's fun when teams do something that's like city specific when they celebrate like that.
Yeah.
That could only happen in like Tampa and maybe like one of the LA markets, but like I think by having a boat parade, it just it have like the Bucks done that when they won their Super Bowl.
Well,
they did a boat parade too.
There's a thing we do every year called Gasparilla, and it's like basically
the pirate parade.
Pirates invade and then take over the city, and then leave. And it's always like there's a bunch of like charity and stuff that goes around it, and there's always like a pirate parade. And so the Lightning doing that is very specific to this. Like, there's a lot of culture surrounding that, and the rink is literally right by the canal that goes through.
Yeah, they just followed that Riverwalk thing just to the arena, and they got out all the boats there.
That's awesome. And I guess before we move on to some convicted talk, and this is convicted, I guess, adjacent. You know, the last cup, you guys were approached to make the Stanley Cup championship billboard. So I'd love to hear like how they approached you and you know what the finished product was, because that's super cool.
Yeah, they so I think like as they were making the press for the second cup, we were contacted, and I guess it was a few months before. We were contacted. Hey, we're doing a special thing for the Lightning, and we need like
the first one.
Yeah,
the first billboard.
We need like an innovative screen printing company to help us out. And we're like, okay, this is interesting. So we responded, and they told us the project. And basically, what it was is that there's this. It's called hydrochromic ink, and what it does is it's white, like opaque, when it's dry. But then once it gets wet, it basically turns translucent. So they had like a trial billboard that we did. We went to the billboard manufacturing company, and basically brought like this humongous screen and basically used like a giant like screen printing squeegee to pull the ink across it, so it was like smooth, and then they put it up and it was just white, and then had like a little like Be the Thunder kind of thing at the bottom, and then when it rained, it said something like. What did it say?
I forget what it said, but it had like Vassy, it had Edmund, it had Stamkos Point, all that.
Yeah, and it said like lightning brought this rain or something like that, or bring this rain, something like that. But it was like rain, like
REIGN.
Yeah, like raining over a kingdom. And then it was like when it got wet by actual rain, it was like, the lightning brought this rain. And then they did a second one, and this one was like right when they just after the first game that they won in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, the guy we were working with, Troy Dunn, and he runs like a lot of their like physical promotion type stuff and ad campaigns and whatnot. He hit us up and he was like, "Hey, so it looks like they have a chance at winning, and we need so this will need to be up potentially by next week."
Yeah.
So we're like
insane.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure it out, and we're like, okay. So we had to like quick contact like day of contact our screen manufacturing company to get them to make these 2 humongous screens. And they were like, they almost couldn't do it, but then we're like, hey, well, it's a project for the Tampa Bay Lightning, so what do we need to pay to make this happen? And they're like, this. Oh, okay, well, this much. And then there was like a whole shipping issue, so we had to actually go up there with a U-Haul, grab the screens, come down, print it like basically that day.
And then we couldn't use the place that we printed the last time because this is funny. So right after, it was between game like 3 and 4, there was a hurricane that came into Tampa. It was a small one. It was a small hurricane. I don't even think it was a hurricane. I think it was a tropical storm.
Yeah.
And the place that we were originally printing it at was like, we're not open, but we had to finish this thing by like in 2 days.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh no, like we got to get started now. So we had to go pick up the billboard from them and then bring that over too. And we printed this image during a hurricane. If that isn't the most Florida thing we could have done.
Like for this potential Stanley Cup champions in Tampa, in Florida during a hurricane, it's like the whole thing. It was magical.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking, but magical, nerve-wracking.
Do you remember the dimensions?
The dimensions for so it was like they had the whole billboard printed. It was like one of the big ones you see on the highway. Like 30 by 20, something like that, or 40 by 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Just humongous. But we only were doing like a portion of it, and just covering a portion of it with.
It only covered rain this time.
Yeah. So we have pictures of it and everything too. But we basically had to clear out this whole area in our shop. And because Troy was kind of like concerned. He's like, well, we can't do it there. It's like, where can we do it? I called him back and I was like, hey, so we can do it at our shop if we can just get the billboard over there. So then I was bringing the screens back, and then Ryan rented another U-Haul to go get the billboard, bring it back to our location. And then we were there like all night, like all day and all night, like finishing it, making sure it was ready just in case they won. And then I think we were waiting for one of the coats to dry. We went up to the Applebee's right there and then watched them win. Then went back and made sure it was finished.
They won the third game. They won the third game, and we were like, "Oh snap! This is happening. We need to finish this billboard."
Yeah, you're like, Montreal, please just win one game. Like win a game or two, like to get us
We were kind of hoping that, honestly.
But like I'm kind of familiar with like the screen printing process. So like the screen that you guys had to make to do this, like how big was that then?
It was taller than me, and I'm 6 foot.
Yeah, it was. I think we did like 5 feet by 8 feet or something like that.
And it took you and Ryan both with that squeegee.
Yeah, there's 2 of us. Yeah, we actually have a whole like little documentary that we did. One of our guys did on it that we haven't released yet. So we're gonna be putting that out. So you'll be able to see the process if you check that out. Yeah, it was fun, but a little crazy, but fun. Yeah.
A lot crazy. But
yeah, because like with the normal shirt, like after you squeegee it, then you put it through like that, like kind of looks like a Domino's pizza oven.
Yeah, like, conveyor dryer. Yeah,
conveyor dryer. Like
yeah, so that
obviously
clears it.
Yeah, like with a size of a banner that you just described, like you can't obviously fit it through there, right?
Right. So the ink that we had was dry on its own, so we didn't need to cure it or anything.
We had fans going.
Yeah, we had fans blowing and everything, so it didn't need to be heat cured like the shirts do. So we just had to let it air dry, and that was a whole big thing too, because we had to make sure nothing got on it, and like make sure everyone was like, they have these little booties that you can wear to walk around the billboard. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, if Tampa, knock on wood, goes to the finals again and contacts you, are you guys willing to take on a project like that again?
Oh yeah,
100%.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. He texted me the first time that we got the billboard thing, and I lost my mind. I remember I was sitting here at my desk doing work, and my wife was in the other room, and I was like, "Bang!" like "Bang!" and she just like freaked out. It was hilarious. But yeah, no, we would do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Is it still up, or did they take it down yet?
I think they only left it up for like a week or two.
They have like this bar in the middle of like Soho, like South Howard, Tampa area, and that's where they put it up. But it's a huge billboard, and it's for the Lightning, so they always have different Lightning billboards up there. It was up for like a week or two or something like that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that documentary, because I think it's definitely like seeing screen printing, but like then to like epic proportions, like for a billboard, it's got to be cool to see.
Yeah.
So like, what did you guys use for the squeegee?
Just so they have when they manufacture squeegees, it's like a block of wood, and then they put the rubber inside of it, and when they manufacture them like real long, and then they chop them up to the size that you need for screen printing. So we were basically just like, yeah, just give us a 5 foot long one.
They were probably very confused.
What are you guys doing down there? What is happening?
What's happening down in Florida?
Seriously.
That's great. Well, I definitely want to talk more Convicted, and we'll do that after I quickly tell us about our sponsor, DraftKings. So, hockey fans, the pursuit for the Stanley Cup is on, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has an unbelievable offer for the most exciting playoffs in sports. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what, win or lose. Looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during the playoffs? With DraftKings same-game parlays, you can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more. It's your shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on any NHL team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age restrictions apply. Eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Whew. All right. Nailed it. So, I'm super pumped to talk Convicted, and, came across you guys because of our homies Out of Time, who you work closely with, and they did like their battle of bands with you guys, and Aim High works with you guys closely. So Convicted has come onto our radar I would say over a year ago, but now we're going to be working together, which is awesome, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But you know, we talk to bands, we talk to labels, we talk to other podcasts, and you know, I would truthfully think that the most important part in the music industry right now is merchandise. And, you know, with the age of streaming, bands aren't making money off their music anymore. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of the reality. And one of the areas that bands can still, you know, make enough money to make this a career or at least a legitimate side hustle is by selling merch. And you guys have been working with a lot of our favorite bands. So, you know, it's going to be cool to hear the merch side of alternative music and kind of how you guys get started and how you linked up with Convicted and all of that. So I'd love to hear your, you know, involvement in Convicted and what your day to day looks like.
Yeah. How did you link up with Convicted?
Very intimately. And it was me and Ryan who started it. So yeah, Ryan and I, he's the other co-owner. He's not as into hockey, so he's not doing this.
He wasn't invited.
He was not invited. So him and I, we were working for a benefit concert series. We run a venue here in Brandon, and it's all just DIY, focus on like local bands and small touring bands. And we were doing that for a while. We're still doing that. Actually having our 10-year anniversary show this year, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, sick.
But when we were doing that, one of the things we started doing was different events for different like causes, and one of the causes we were having an event for was human trafficking. So like human trafficking awareness, fighting human trafficking, all that kind of stuff. And in the midst of that, somebody at because it's a church venue, and so somebody at the church there was like, "Hey, how do you guys make your shirts?" And we're like, "Well, we order them from here or whatever." And he's like, "Well, I have a small like little DIY press. If you guys want to have it and use it for your, you know, making your guys' shirts." And I was like, "Oh, that's perfect." Mm-hmm. And then Ryan and I were kind of the ones working on it. And about that same time, we were working with different consultants for human trafficking and people who like work in the industry, getting people out and stuff like that. And we asked one of the consultants, we were like, "Hey, so like what could two like young dudes, what would be best for two young dudes to do to help like impact this, you know, beyond just having an event to raise awareness?" And she was like, "Honestly, if more like young small business owners took on hiring people after they've been rescued and rehabilitated and help them reintegrate, that would be a huge impact on the industry, because a lot of times what happens is there's like a recursion rate where they'll get out of human trafficking, they'll get rehabilitated, but they've accrued kind of like criminal records and things like that. So it's really hard for them to find work. So they oftentimes end up finding themselves in a similar situation they were in before, because there's nothing outside of that for them, you know, because, you know, there's still stigma around people who have records and whatnot, you know, convictions and all that mm-hmm. kind of stuff. And so Ryan and I were both just like, wait a minute. Okay, we're working with a bunch of bands. We already have a market of people we know and work with who need merch. We have this screen printing capability now, and we have this, you know, this mission and this vision of like, I was like, wait a minute, what if we just put this all together and we start working with bands, making merch for them, and then have the goal of eventually hiring people out of human trafficking? It's like, well, yeah, that kind of came together really serendipitously. Let's do it. And that's pretty much the start of it, and that's been the journey that we've been on for now, I think 7 years. Yeah. And that's still at the heart and soul of what we're trying to do is create a sustainable business where we can hire people and help them get their life back. You know.
So. I love that. It sounds very similar. Like there was a show on Animal Planet, I think, that did that with like rescuing pit bulls, and yeah, they hired a lot of, you know, ex-felons to help work at their like sanctuary or whatever. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's all about, second chances and
Yeah.
getting your feet on the ground when, it seems like the world's kind of kicking you when you're down, and getting that chance, it's huge. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys and having that mission. Now, I guess my question is like that original equipment that was like handed to you, is it still functioning? Like, or have you guys upgraded? Like,
We have
Definitely upgraded.
there. Yeah, we've definitely upgraded. We there's like the piece where like the platen where you put the t-shirt on. It's just basically like a thick block of wood and like press board. And we actually still have that in the shop and sometimes use it to stand on. Like if it's like we really got to grind into a design on the manual, we'll stand on that to get kind of more leverage. So it's like there's still an original piece of what we started with being used, frequently in the shop. And then we actually have the first three screens that we made for
screens.
yeah, they're like wooden, like the crappiest, like you can buy them on Amazon, like real DIY stuff. But they're the first three screens that we made for the event. And we still have those at the shop as well. So we don't obviously use them, but
Keepsakes.
yeah.
So like, I'm guessing you must have watched like a bunch of YouTube videos to like even learn the screen printing process. Like,
Yep.
I'm assuming that you didn't know much about it, right?
No, we got into it. Basically, the guy who gave us the press gave us a few tips. He was just a DIY guy as well, and just kind of was doing it for fun. And he was like, "Well, here's kind of the basics," and then we kind of took it and ran from there. And it was just hours and hours of YouTube and struggle and wanting to pull our hair out and all that kind of stuff.
Remember the little heat gun that you used at first?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a little heat gun that we used. Did not cure the shirts properly. That didn't go well.
Not at all.
It was a mess. Yeah, a lot of YouTube though. That has definitely been like a huge asset for building the business. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just when the passion's there, like, and you guys clearly had the passion, like you wanted to help people, and like, once you have that, then all the other pieces kind of just fall into place, and that's kind of like what happened with Bar Down Breakdown. Like, I literally knew nothing about podcasts. I didn't even really like listen to them when I started.
Yeah.
And I just really love talking music and hockey. And I was like, you know what? I'll make it work. And here we are 3 years later. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a podcast pro, but I can get by. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and it's
You're
all
pretty good.
just from, watching YouTube and letting the passion come out. Right.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. And you probably don't feel like you're really working at that point. Like when you're passionate about it, doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when it's like a huge struggle, or there's something, everything's going wrong or anything like that, there's still like that mission and vision and that passion for the what the project can become. That it's like, even in the midst of that, even in the midst of like 2 days worth of like no sleep to make this billboard, it's definitely like laborious and physical labor, and you're actually doing work, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're building something, something meaningful.
Yeah, I totally agree. So like, I guess, when did you start to branch into like the alternative music world? Or like, I guess you had the shows going on, so kind of just fell into place where you were like, oh, like maybe let's start printing for some bands that we know.
Immediately.
Yeah. It wasn't, it was like, that was part of the progression of it. And doing it was like, well, bands need merch all the time, so it's like we have a market right there and we can branch out past that, and we've done that. But music was definitely like central to the start of the whole thing. And it's still our bread and butter. I mean, that's where we make most of our money is from bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most of our business. So that's always been part of it. And that's been something like, and going to what you were saying about merch being an essential part of music, that's another portion of what we're aiming for with Convicted is to build more than just selling them merch, right? Our whole purpose and our whole goal is to help bands succeed and build what they're doing into something that is sustainable, something that they can do for a livelihood, and all that kind of stuff. So it goes a lot farther than just printing merch for some bands. It's like we're like intimately involved in helping them grow as musicians, as business people, as performers, all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I love that. And then like having these battle of bands and then like putting on shows still. It sometimes even just like finding a place to play could be so hard these days, especially post pandemic. Like I learned firsthand helping book the Bar Down Break tour. You know, a lot of the venues, even in our hometown, like Long Island, you know, that was one of the most important music scenes in the early 2000s.
Yep.
Those venues aren't around anymore. So like
crazy.
we wanted to start the tour on Long Island, and we know so many people still there and a lot of people that used to book shows on Long Island. And we would reach out to them like, yo, we got this sick tour. Like, we want to start at Long Island. They're like, yo, we don't even do shows anymore. Like they're not,
No.
that's not open anymore. Like
Right.
there's literally on Long Island right now. If obviously since Long Island's so close to New York City, like the New York City venues survived. So that like I wouldn't say that the scene's like dead, but
Right.
on Long Island, there's two places that are doing shows. And like other than, the VFW halls and like real DIY, but there's two venues, and that's not what it used to be like. And even finding places for bands to play is just tough. So it's sweet that you guys are offering that as well.
Yeah, that was something that happened to us too, because there was a venue around, still one of my favorite venues ever, called Transitions. It was at the skate park of Tampa. If you played Tony Hawk Underground 2, it was at that skate park, and it was so much fun. It was just a DIY venue, and then we were doing our thing too, because I've been doing it for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. I've been doing it for 8 years because we've been a thing for 10. But so I've been doing it for 8 years and seeing the scene grow and morph and different venues come up and then go out. It's been crazy to see, and then through the pandemic, how some venues survived and how some almost didn't, and how some just didn't. And we were very fortunate enough it was crazy because we had like a benefit show for the venue, and it was the only time we'd ever done it. And someone else actually threw it because I would have never done it. And that money got us through the entire pandemic up until like 2 months before our first show back.
Yep.
Like that was the only way we made it through that, with the payments that we had on some sound gear and stuff like that. But we came back, and our first show back had that band Koyo on it, and it felt like it had never ended because of like how many people were at that show. The bands were amazing. It was with friends, and so that was our first show back, and it was insane.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Love that. Yeah, it's nice to see how some of those grassroots like projects and like benefits did save some of the venues. Like there was a comp for AMH, which is the venue on Long Island. Like the comp definitely helped keep the doors open for that venue. And who knows that if that didn't like take off, maybe Long Island would only have one venue now. And that would just be so wild to me to think that there's not like places for tours to go anymore other than Manhattan. And like, for the smaller DIY bands, Manhattan's not going to even look at you. Like those venues are going to want guarantees that are like just something that a smaller band could never do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Long Island was always perfect for that, because it was those middle tier bands that could still then like fill 200 to 500 cap rooms, but they don't like those size rooms don't really exist in Manhattan. Like you're looking at over 1,000, over 1,000. So like there would just be no place then for those middle tier bands to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, until this year, like right after the pandemic, that pub that does concerts now, the Noise Box is the only DIY venue in Tampa. Everything else is like more professional venues or bars or something like
Yeah,
that.
somewhere where a DIY band's not going to get in.
Yeah, so being able to still have the shows that we have and just keep that DIY mentality with everything. I mean, we've had Being as an Ocean there. We've had Spite. We've had, who else? We had 68. We've had like national touring bands come through, but it's always been about like the smaller or mid-tier like bands, just trying to help give them a place to play.
Amen. I guess then it's perfect time to transition to the event that we are working together on, because we're given a place to play for some of the bands that are playing Bar Down Breakfest the night before, where we're going to have an Elder Emo Night Out presented by Convicted Printing. So
Yes,
super stoked to work with you guys. We have 6 killer bands and a epic guest host that we're ready to announce like any day now. Super stoked on that. And it's going to be at Hourglass Brewing, which I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So unfortunately I have not been there yet, but I've only heard great things about Hourglass. Like, it's a really like kind of edgy brewery where, at least here in the Charlotte market, kind of like the finance bros take over the breweries, but this is kind of like the edgy kind of alternative brewery in Orlando. So it seems like a perfect fit. And we're bringing out the mobile screen printing from Convicted, which I'm super stoked to just watch. I kind of want to, I'll put in my request. I would love to squeegee a shirt. Like, I feel like that would be super cool.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
That'd be sick.
I'm super stoked that that's going to be at Hourglass, and you can kind of just pick a design on the spot and have it printed right in front of you. That's super cool. And I was telling you on the phone the other day, like when I lived in Troy, New York, there was a place that did this at a farmer's market, and they would even do like kind of like paint and sip kind of nights where, people would go and paint like, whatever it is, but then they would also have their screen printer set up, and they would have screen printing nights. So like you could like drink some wine, paint, and then like screen print also. It was super cool. So once you guys mentioned that, I was like, yes, we're doing that. That's super cool.
Yes. Yeah. That's actually been something we just started this year. We've been wanting to do it for a while. But we actually just started this year really getting into like offering that for any like festivals or shows or whatever that we're sponsoring, saying, hey, we can, bring out our mobile screen printing stuff and do on-site shirts. And we have had like, it was one of those things where I wasn't entirely sure if people would be about it, but like the response every time we've mentioned it, they're like, yes, absolutely. We had one guy who was running a convention who he saw us doing something like that and was like, oh, do you guys do that? And I was like, yeah. He's like, absolutely, come on out. Like, I want like that. I want that at the event. And then another Spookala, a horror convention we just sponsored in Ocala. He was like, we mentioned that to him, and he was like, oh my gosh, that is super cool. I've not seen that at any other conventions. I want this, like, that needs to be there. And which has been really cool, because it's one of those things that I've always thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I'd love to like offer that, but I wasn't sure how people were going to respond, like if anyone would like go for it. And it's been like across the board. Every time we've mentioned it, they're like, absolutely, bring that. Super cool.
Yeah. And, especially if you are buying merch these days at a show, there's companies that do kind of like the laser screen printing.
Yeah.
And then you wash it 2 times and the shirt is crap. Like it just doesn't hold up. Where, seeing it being made in front of your eyes the correct way.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, you know what? I know that this shirt's going to at least hold up. Like when I wash it.
Exactly.
A little bit of insurance.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like I've thought about that a lot, is like, speaking of doing it the correct way, it's crazy. It's like we're about to send people to Mars, and still the most reliable way to put a design on a shirt is through a stencil with ink. And it's just like manually with your hands pushing it through, making the t-shirt.
Yep.
Like the fact that like that was like really pioneered like in the 60s and 70s with the bands that were like, oh, we need to, it's started like the screen printing revolution to some extent started with bands who wanted an alternative way to make money. You know, so screen printing and bands have always like gone hand in hand. And the fact that it's still just like you had like hippies like making like, you know, really revolutionizing the t-shirt industry with these stencils, and it's still the best, most reliable way to do it. It's like, whoa, that's crazy.
But it's true, like, you know, the Teesprings and the TeePublics of the world where, yeah, it's convenient, but the shirts are trash and like they don't hold up. And yeah, they probably can make them super quick, but you know, at the end of the day, the customers are going to be like, yeah, I'm not buying a shirt from them the second time. Like, it's not worth it. So like doing it the right way, even though it might be, you know, take a little more elbow grease and actually like squeezing it down and all that. But it's the way that works, and it's the way that's going to hold up.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've actually had a number of clients who've gotten recently, like we've been getting into sponsoring streamers and stuff like that. And a lot of content creators use like Teesprings, those online services. And one of the guys who ended up working with us was like, yeah, I did that, and all of my customers complained about it. Like all my fans complained about the quality of the shirt, so I needed something else. So
no, yeah, I've used them in the past, and they're trash. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like they just they don't hold up. But for, you know, when you only need a few, I guess it's an option.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So not trying to totally put them down, but
no. It's one of those things.
It's a convenience factor.
It's a convenience factor, and it's hard to keep up with that kind of demand, you know. So there's going to be struggles with it, you know. But it's you know, the tried and true way. At the end of the day, usually comes out on top, you know.
Yeah, and we'll be able to do it right there in the parking lot of Hourglass Brewing, and I'm super stoked for it. And like I mentioned, we got 6 bands playing live sets of, you know, some bands playing as some of the classics like Newfound Glory and Paramore, and then we also have some doing kind of just like a mashup of the emo hits. And like I said, we have a really cool guest host that I'm super stoked to announce. And like I mentioned, any day now we will be able to announce that, and it's going to be the night before Bar Down Breakfest, presented by Convicted Printing. So super stoked to have you guys come out and hang out. I know you already know some of the bands that are playing, so it's just going to be a party.
Oh yeah, sir. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Hell yeah. So I guess, you know, just to wrap it up, you know, we've been chatting for almost an hour now. You know, what's on your horizon for Convicted? Like if a band wants to reach out to you guys to get some shirts made, are you still taking new customers on? Like what's the process that, you know, up and coming bands can go through?
That's mostly my job. So.
Yeah, that's mostly his job.
So yeah, if you want to hit me up, you can reach us through our website, convictedprint.com. There's a little request a quote. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get me, my beautiful face, helping you out, or not beautiful face, however you want to look at it. But yeah, we take on new customers all the time.
Yeah.
And then we try to keep them as customers, obviously. But
and with bands, especially smaller bands, one of our main things that we do is our artist endorsement project. And that really is focused on, you know, getting bands like discounts on merch, and then promotion, like we promote them on all our stuff. And then we're actually in the works right now working on a number of different projects as far as like a band boot camp, stuff like that, where like the development side of things, where we, you know, help them like, you know, develop their merch rig, help them develop, you know, their getting into touring, all that kind of stuff, like, you know, tips and tricks, because most of the people who work for Convicted have been in a band, have toured, all that kind of stuff. And so that's our focus is really on like helping younger bands not make the mistakes that we made. This is the main thing. And, just giving them those resources and helping them do what they want to do with their lives and the stuff they're passionate about. So,
Hell yeah. And I'm guessing you take on local clients as well, maybe people that are not necessarily in bands and maybe just need like, a family outing or, a reunion tour.
We help the normies too. We help the normies too.
we do. We do really anything that comes across our table.
If it's a shirt and you need it printed, we can help.
Yeah, we got you. For sure.
Hell yeah. Love that. Well, Justin, Tom, I truly appreciate you guys coming on here and talking Convicted, talking Bolts. Super stoked to hang out with you guys and print some shirts at Elder Emo Night Out at Hourglass Brewing on June 24th in Orlando. And who knows, like we might be watching a Bolts Stanley Cup finals game that night too. Like it could be like that week as well. So we got a lot coming up, and I'm super stoked for it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys, and we'll be seeing you in a few weeks, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
You as
Go
well.
Bolts.
Go Bolts.